was a particular story I had from my parents. And that was that when I was a few months old, when I was born, I had a very, very close relationship with my dad. Like a really close one. That if I couldn't sleep with my mom, whenever I'm with my dad would be able to, my dad can pet me to sleep. Like, I love being with my dad a lot. That was when I was born. So a few months after I was born, my dad got an admission into a particular school. A school in another state. So he had to travel to that school to further his education. And when he was leaving then, it was as if I knew. Because according to the story I had, I was really crying a lot. Like I didn't want him to go. I didn't want him to leave. So it was as if I knew he was going to somewhere very far. To the extent that at that point where he was leaving, I was told that I was holding his clothes very tight. As a little child, as a baby then, I was holding his clothes really tight that I had to forcefully remove that clothes from my hand. And that resulted into a lot of crying for me as well. So, but my dad had to leave. He had to travel he had to go on that journey. So after some months, I'm not sure if it's months or years, but when he returned, I was a little older. But unfortunately, when he came back, I couldn't recognize my dad again. Like, I was unable to know that this man is my dad. Whenever he tried to carry me, I would start crying whenever I'm with him. Like, I would want to quickly go back to my mom. I didn't know him as my dad again when he came back. That close relationship we had before, because of his journey, because he traveled, it resulted into a distance between myself and my dad. I was going with that thing in me. Even though I was going older, even though I knew after going older that this person is my dad, I eventually knew him as my dad, but that close relationship was not there. To the extent that whenever I needed anything, I would go. Instead of me going straight to my dad to ask him that, "Daddy, I need this particular thing," I would go through my mom. So my mom would be the one to ask on my behalf. When I was a teenager, the same thing was still happening. The period at which I was able to meet my dad to ask for something, it was out of confidence. It was out of the fact that my mom would push me to him that he's your dad, go and ask him yourself. So before going, I would firstly sit somewhere to gather some confidence within me that I'm going to approach my dad, which is not supposed to be so. He's not a stranger to me, my dad is not supposed to be so, but because of what happened when I was younger, so I had to gather some confidence within me before going to meet him. So, but what I noticed was that whenever I go to meet him directly and ask him for something, he would always try to do that thing for me as fast as possible compared to if my mom asked on my behalf. I noticed that, but I just didn't count it. But later, after some years, when I was more mature, my dad now said something regarding that those periods when I was not close with him, those periods when I used to send my mom, so they asked for something on my behalf, he said he was not happy. He said he was not happy, that it was a pain in his heart that his first child couldn't come to him directly to ask for something. And then he said that anytime I eventually approached him to demand for something, He said there is this kind of joy that always filled his heart. He said there is this kind of joy that he always feels within himself, that finally my son has approached me, my son has asked me for something. And that is why whenever I ask him for something, he would always want to quickly do that thing for me. If he didn't have, he will make sure that he gets that thing for me. That was not the same with my siblings, because my siblings were close with my dad. When my siblings were close with my dad, easily they could ask him for something. Easily they can ask him for something, but the case is not the same with me. So anytime my dad had my confidence to meet him, he said the kind of joy he feels in his heart would always make him to want to do that thing for me as quick, as fast as possible. When I was thinking about this recently, and then I realized that the same way, the same pain that my dad was feeling when I was sending my mom to ask on my behalf, God always feel that same pain as well. When you, as his son, you are not asking him for something. When you, as his son, you as his child, you are not going to ask to meet God, who is your father. You are not going to ask for help from God. Instead of asking him for help, you are entertaining worry in your heart. You are getting worried in your heart. Instead of you going to meet God, that God, I want this, I need your help in this area. I want you to do this for me. God always feels that same pain as well. You are his child. You should be able to go to him. You should be able to have that confidence that whenever you ask God for something, you do it. He said it in his word that it is by the confidence we have in our heart that we can ask from him, because it is by that confidence we know that whenever we ask, we will receive. He said it in his word that ask and it shall be given unto you. He also said it in his word that in the book of James, that many of you have not received because you have not asked. He wants you to ask. He said he will supply our needs according to his riches in glory. He has a lot of things on ground for us. All he just wants is for you to ask. Just ask. That's what he wants. That's in Matthew chapter 7, where he said, ask and it shall be given unto you. If you read downward, he said it in that same chapter that who among you would your son come to meet you to ask for bread and you will give him some? Who among you would your son come to meet you to ask for fish and you will give him a serpent? If you, that you are evil, if you can do something good for your child, how much more your heavenly Father? He will give good things to his child, to his children, if you ask. So God is ready to supply all your needs. All you need to do is to ask. He wants you to ask. Some of you, instead of asking, all you do is complain, all you do is worry, all you do is murmur, grumbling. Those are the things that many of you do instead of asking. Asking in prayer. Ask for it. Ask for it, he will supply. Ask for it, he will give you. Have that assurance in your mind that if I ask him for this particular thing, my God will do it. Be confident. Be confident. Ask him, he can supply it. Nothing is too much for him to do. All he wants is for you to ask.